Now, I'm sure that a lot of you out there are very aware that Star Wars AHSOKA just actually backpedaled its release date till tomorrow as opposed to August 23rd, so it will be debuting on Disney Plus on Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for, of course, that streaming platform provided by Disney, and a lot of fans have been very much skeptical and curious as to why they shifted that release date one whole day earlier. Some fans think it's a desperate move by Disney, other fans think it has other more positively driven motives behind it. Now, with that being said, we know that AHSOKA is a make or break situation. It's going to be a show that is a make or break for the Star Wars fandom, for the Star Wars franchise moving onwards. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support, and let's get right into the subject, shall we? Now, ever since The Mandalorian Season 3 came to a close, back in April, just a short few months ago, there's been a lot of fans that have either given up on Disney Plus Star Wars or have unsubscribed from the service or want nothing to do with anything related to Kathleen Kennedy, Jon Favreau, or Dave Filoni in any sense. You know, there's a lot of fans that really abandoned ship after Mando Season 3 really had a sharp decline. And here we are, one day away from the Ahsoka Tano series debuting on Disney Plus, and one big development that we have to go over has a lot to do with creator Dave Filoni and producer Kathleen Kennedy, and specifically why I think there are going to be quite a number of concerns with this show. Let's get into it. Now, with the Ahsoka Tano series ready to release on Tuesday, one big development has to do with something that will worry many fans for the Star Wars franchise and creator Dave Filoni's actions. One alarming update has to do with the fact that though Kathleen Kennedy did not hold any creative power over the Ahsoka series, surprisingly Dave Filoni allowed several significant concepts and ideas that Kathleen Kennedy insisted should be used in the show that actually happened in the final cut. Now, much of this has to do with cutting back on the number of scenes featuring Anakin Skywalker as originally intended by Dave Filoni that he accepted by Kathleen Kennedy, along with more sequel trilogy connections to the story of Ahsoka to be connected to those films provided by Disney. She also insisted that to Dave Filoni on writing out a key scene featuring Luke Skywalker in the 6th episode. However, this doesn't necessarily mean or signal that Luke holds no possibility of showing up. As a shocking turn of events as it may be, Filoni also allowed many of Kennedy's ideas to slip into the show along the way, including the way Sabine Wren would be executed on screen through her acting and appearance, and how she would be used in the series as becoming stronger than Ezra Bridger. Now again, this is something that obviously is beginning to translate to the Force is female all over again. I can see why some fans would translate it to that. And that's the biggest criticism that I think a lot of the first-time viewers actually had. Not all, but some. And I've said this many times. The first reactions and the first impressions that came out the other day, you really can't trust them all, because a lot of them are bought by Disney, a lot of them, you know, speak for Disney, they get these for free, these free promotions, these free screenings, and of course, the majority are not going to say that, you know, it's lackluster or it's bad or anything like that. They're going to give you whatever you want to hear, because they are essentially paid by Disney. Now, there were a couple that really told a very big truth, you know, quite a number, but more on the minority, saying how if you're a Rebels fan or a Clone Wars fan, you're gonna love this, but if you do not like Disney Star Wars, then you're not gonna like this. There were some people that said that. So it's gonna be interesting regardless to see how this 2-episode premiere is going to resonate with both casuals and hardcore fans. I think it's going to be a very interesting turn of events regardless, based on what Dave Filoni allowed to spill into the show per Kathleen Kennedy, but let's get into this even all the more so. Now, Jon Favreau, alright, surprisingly had a rift with Dave Filoni and a brief falling out as they held different beliefs about many of Kennedy's ideas slipping into the show after what she did with Mando Season 3 when, of course, she had full control over that season. After filming was complete, many scenes that did not involve Kennedy's supervision were also cut, as insisted by Kennedy as well, where Dave Filoni gave that the okay. This series was also supposed to have one extra episode, topping it to 9, that Kennedy demanded to be reduced down to 8. She also insisted to Dave Filoni to bring the 3rd episode down to 30-some minutes long, to reduce spending on the show for longer screen time on main characters and production, as well as for marketing purposes. So here's the other problem that I have with the AHSOKA series, is that Dave Filoni really allowed some of Kennedy's ideas to spill into the series, and that's why I'm a little concerned. In fact, I'm very concerned about the show being Mando Season 3 2.0, if not worse. Now look, I'm not here to just be a pure pessimist and just trashing on the show for no reason, but this is a valid reason, I feel, to be very skeptical about the show, and based on what I saw, and I will be honest, based on what I saw throughout the trailers and the TV spots, I'm still not sold. Even regardless of hearing Anakin Skywalker's voice, I'm just still not sold about this show. You know, a lot of times when it comes to the cameos, it's always drummed up to be something super spectacular, and it begins to fall apart, and it's not quite as impressive as it sounded to be. You know, I think that when we look at great examples out there, like when Anakin and Kenobi featured themselves in that flashback, we saw how there were shots where Hayden was not properly de-aged. A lot of that was a property of Kathleen Kennedy dialing back on the budgeting of the Kenobi series. Let's not forget that Kenobi as a show had a very lower budget margin in comparison to the Acolyte series by Leslie Headland. Just let that sink in for a moment there. An Acolyte show about characters that we don't even know about got a bigger budget than Obi-Wan Kenobi as a series featuring Darth Vader, Anakin, and Kenobi, as well as a young version of Luke and Leia. It's just beyond my imagining as to why Kathleen Kennedy goes through with all of that. Well, we all know why, because she has that agenda of hers that needs to be fulfilled. Now, here's the thing about AHSOKA, alright? Now, we know that the 3rd episode is only running 30-some minutes long. That was also a property of Kathleen Kennedy. And again, I can't stress this enough, we mentioned this months ago, that Kennedy had no creative supervision or power over this series for the AHSOKA show. It was all Dave Filoni. Even Jon Favreau himself, he did not write a single episode, you know, in a significant sense at all. And it was all Dave, and Kathleen Kennedy and some of her ideas spilled into the show because Dave Filoni actually approved of said ideas. This is exactly what led to that rift between Favreau and Filoni. Not that they necessarily hate each other, but they had disagreements, and they had some creative differences on allowing those said demands by Kennedy to be introduced into the show. And that does match up with the rumors that John and Dave had a little bit of a problem, you know, in between principal photography and post-production. So what's interesting about all of this to take away from is the fact that they also dial back the release date by a day. They have Anakin's voice already showcased in one of the TV spots. Do you guys think that's desperate, or do you think that's just a way to boost ratings? I would like to hear from you guys below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
Gun in hand, we are alone again. From night to moon, we hear them moans again.